Hello out there, greetings mateys, and welcome aboard the VHS pirate ship. Be sure to hit that subscribe button.
Smash that button.
So you can see all the action, all the adventure, all the drama, and all the excitement here on the VHS pirate ship. So join the crew, hit subscribe. Thank you for tuning in, and enjoy the show. Don't put that tinsel up there. Woohoo! Whoa. Greetings, mates. It's me, Captain Adam, and welcome aboard the VHS pirate ship. It's the VHS pirate ship. Pirate ship! We're pretty busy today on the old VHS pirate ship because we're getting ready for our Christmas in July party. What's Christmas in July? Well, it's kind of Christmas, but not really Christmas. Just like some movies are not really Christmas movies. And we'll find out what the hell I'm talking about in today's episode. It's the Christmas in July, not really Christmas special. So enjoy the show. Yo ho ho, yar. Christmas time. You know, people love Christmas so much that will look for any reason to celebrate early, which is why there is such a thing as Christmas in July, which of course marks the halfway point to Christmas, and people just cannot wait to celebrate. Now, Christmas in July is quite commonplace today, but its origins are a bit fuzzy. It's said to have gotten its start from an 1892 French opera called Werther, wherein a bunch of kids rehearse a Christmas song in the summertime. Now, I'm sure there's a lot more to that story, but that's the only part that pertains to Christmas. Plus, this is a show about VHS, not opera. Captain Adam's opera pirate ship? But anyway, another origin is from Keystone Camp, a girls' camp in North Carolina, that in 1933 had a program which was called Christmas in July, and people started catching wind of this, and in 1942, some churches started programs called Christmas Presents in July, where they collect gifts and donations in order to distribute them in ample time to missions all over the world. And during World War II, the U.S. Postal Service started a program called Christmas in July, where you could send Christmas cards to troops overseas, with the idea being that the Christmas cards would have plenty of time to get to their destinations just in time for Christmas. So this Christmas in July concept began being thrown around so much that as early as 1950, advertisers started using this concept for summertime sales. TV stations would start rerunning Christmas specials, and stores would have sales based on this concept. And it proved to be a good way to clear out old stock and make room for next year's inventory. And there was a movie called Christmas in July, which was released in theaters October 18th, 1940, where some schmo thinks he won $25,000 and ends up blowing all of his money on gifts. And this movie would be released on VHS in 1985 and again in 1990. And you can find one today for $12. But look at that shipping. What the fuck? From the United States? I'm in the United States. I mean, is there a United States on Jupiter or what? And here's one for not even $3. What the hell is going on with this shipping? What's going on here? I'm not ordering from the fucking space station. Is this VHS like 20 feet tall or something? What the hell's going on? I'm sure this is just a fluke and there's better options for shipping. And this would be pretty cool to have in your collection, if only for the fact that this movie is pretty unheard of and not very popular. And the story of this movie has nothing to do with Christmas. There would go on to be many movies that have nothing to do with Christmas except for the fact that it takes place during Christmas time, but that would be enough for people to consider these films Christmas movies. And today, we're going to take a look at some of the more famous examples of this conundrum. Because, mateys, it's the Captain Adam's VHS pirate ship, Christmas in July, not really Christmas special. So not only is Christmas an important time of year, it's also a fascinating backdrop for any story. So much so that if a story takes place at Christmas time, it will eventually be considered a Christmas story, which is precisely the case for Die Hard, which was released in theaters July 15th, 1988, and is the best example of a not really Christmas movie. And hell, since it was released in July, it also makes it a Christmas in July movie. And this movie would be the breakout role for Bruce Willis, who was virtually unknown before this film. And the same is the case for Alan Rickman, who plays the antagonist Hans Gruber. The story centers around John McClane, played by Bruce Willis, a New York City police officer who finds himself at a Christmas party that gets taken over by terrorists, and he quickly realizes that he's the only one who can save the hostages. And he, of course, succeeds and ends up saving Christmas, at least for the hostages. I mean, this movie doesn't have much to do with Christmas other than taking place on Christmas Eve, so, And this movie was a smash hit. It was made with a budget of $28 million and took in $141 million at the box office. And not only would it cement Bruce Willis as an action star, but also would place Die Hard among the great action movies of all time, and would also become a tremendous movie franchise as it gave way to 4 sequels. Oh, and by the way, Die Hard 2 takes place on Christmas Eve as well, so it's also a not really Christmas movie. So I certainly recommend watching Die Hard 1 and 2 with your family this holiday season. It'd be a hell of a lot more enjoyable than Home Alone 2. But anyway, Die Hard would be released on VHS in 1989 by CBS Fox Home Video, and then again in 1991, and then again in 1997 as a THX Sound digitally remastered special edition. But then it would also be released again in 1996 as part of the Die Hard Trilogy box set, which had 2 different presentations, the one being the standard vertical box set, and the other being rather fancy and seems like it'd be something you'd buy your dad for Father's Day. And you can find one of these single tapes today for around $8, and hopefully that's not with intergalactic shipping. And you can find the box sets today for around $14, and then there's this wise guy, $100. Really?
Big ol' money.
Let's talk about Die Hard 2. Die Harder. It was released in theaters July 4th, 1990. And just like Die Hard, not only is it a not really Christmas movie, but it's also a Christmas in July movie. And the story of this one is pretty much the same as the first movie, only this time the terrorists take over an airport, and it's a different set of terrorists, but it does take place on Christmas Eve. And like the first movie, this one was a tremendous success as well. It was made with a budget around $70 million and took in $240 million at the box office. People just really loved John McClane. Die Hard 2 would go on to be released on VHS in 1991, and again in 1995, and also as part of the Die Hard Trilogy box set in 1996. And you can find one of these today for around $8, or usually this is a pretty common thrift store find, because in one day I found 2 copies in the same thrift store, each for $0.25. So now I have 2 Die Hard 2s, but only 1 Die Hard 1. So why is Die Hard considered a Christmas movie anyway? And when did this start? Obviously the Die Hard story has never changed. It's always taken place on Christmas Eve. So when did people's perception of this movie start to change, and it would become regarded as a Christmas movie? Well, it starts like most things do, on the internet. The whole thing started as a joke in 2010, and how Die Hard was the greatest Christmas movie, and it just kind of spread like wildfire. And here we are today. And it makes the argument that just because a movie takes place at Christmas time, does that fact make that film necessarily a Christmas movie? Well, yes, I guess. And so if that's the case, there's lots of movies that could be considered Christmas movies. But I think we should be more discerning. And let's move on. And so we've seen how Christmas time fares against terrorist forces. But how would it fare against little green monsters? Captain Adam's VHS pirate ship will return after this. If it is BUEKO, it is good. This is BUEKO Products. BUEKO Products makes long line of good things. We make the walkie-talkie toaster, which is a toaster that is also a walkie-talkie. We also make internal combustion engine that is also potato salad. And now we make new chicken-flavored adhesive tape at always low price. We are BUEKO Products. If it is BUEKO, it is good.
BUEKO Products.
Injured at work, rough divorce, was a loved one killed in a horrible circus accident? The law offices of Dillon and Triceratops. They'll fight for you. Call today. Get ready to confess to fun.
At the Spanish Inquisition Fun Park.
It's like medieval times, but only more accurate.
Because here, you won't be treated like royalty.
Because chances are,
You are a shit-covered peasant just like the rest of us.
ride the new Iron Maiden torture coaster.
Torture coaster.
Or ride the Rack and Roll and get stretched beyond belief.
Rock and roll.
And be sure to check out our new exciting midway.
And get some funnel cake. So come have a good time at Spanish Inquisition Fun Park.
Confess to fun. Discount tickets available at participating Cowboy Pork Chops Show Compute family restaurants.
Confess
To fun at the Spanish Inquisition Fun Park. We now return you to Captain Adam's VHS pirate ship. And so we go from one of the greatest action movies to one of the most iconic films of the great 80s with Gremlins, which was released in theaters June 8th, 1984, and for many of us, it'd be our first experience with horror movies, as this film would terrorize children worldwide. It was billed as a family movie and marketed to kids, but contained many gruesome scenes and was generally a pretty scary movie. I mean, come on, basically it was a mild horror movie. In fact, when it was released, it was widely criticized for being too dark and violent. But despite that, this film would be a smash hit. It was made for a budget of $11 million and took in $212 million at the box office. And if you didn't already know, this movie is about an extremely cute and very mysterious little creature called a mogwai, which is Cantonese for devil. And this mogwai would be given as a Christmas gift and later named Gizmo. And Gizmo would go on to be a tremendous 80s icon. But anyways, the movie never really delves into the backstory of this little creature called a mogwai, but we are given some ground rules as far as handling a mogwai goes, like never get it wet, don't expose it to sunlight, and never ever feed it after midnight. And almost immediately, they fuck up and spill water on Gizmo, and then we find out what happens when you get a mogwai wet. Gizmo then multiplies into malicious little mogwais, and these little bastards eventually trick Billy, the kid who was given Gizmo as a Christmas gift, into feeding them after midnight, and then we discover what happens. It turns the mogwais into green little monsters that wreak havoc on the town, and these transformation scenes were pretty gross. And as a kid, you were never really truly comfortable watching this movie because every time you let your guard down, there'd be another gruesome scene. But that's one of the reasons why this movie is so great and still stands strong today. And there was a ton of merchandise made for this film, from toys to bed sheets, and all this stuff is worth a small fortune today. And so surely a movie that was so popular where the merchandise is so valuable today would mean that the VHS is just as valuable, right? Well, not really. It was released on VHS and Beta in 1985, and these seem to be pretty easy to come by nowadays. In fact, they're relatively cheap, and it seemingly wouldn't be re-released on VHS again until 1999. Now, I think that's kind of weird that this movie didn't have a mid-90s re-release. Unless I'm missing something here, but all my research shows that there's only 2 VHS releases of this movie. And the original 1985 release is pretty awesome because they made the year of release pretty easy to find on this. You see, most VHS put it on the back in the very, very tiny print at the bottom, if they even put one on there at all, but not this one. It's right on the front, saying, "Look at me, I'm easy to chronicle." Oh, and by the way, the 1999 release was re-released in a kid's clamshell, so great. If you watch the Curse of the Clamshell episode, you'll know how much I hate that. And look at that dreadfully boring artwork they put on it. Jeez. And compare this to the original release? What are we doing here? And speaking of the Curse of the Clamshell episode, I never brought this release up, mainly because the whole topic made me so angry I simply forgot. Well, actually, I just forgot. No real dramatic backstory there, I just forgot. And an interesting fact here, that when Gremlins was released on VHS in 1985, it was so popular that it actually made $79.5 million on just the proceeds from video rentals. That is a lot of money made for just renting a tape to someone. And keep in mind, the mid-80s was still the time when VHS tapes were still very expensive and most people couldn't afford them. And so video stores just rented them to people. It was a bit of marketing genius. And as I had mentioned, the VHS was originally released in 1985, and so was the Beta, and so was the CED disc, which is a totally forgotten about type of media from the 80s. So why is Gremlins not as highly regarded as a Christmas movie like Die Hard is? I mean, think about it, the main story for Gremlins focuses around a Christmas gift, so that has more to do with Christmas than Die Hard does. I mean, Die Hard's about John McClane going to a Christmas party he doesn't want to go to. But I don't know, maybe this will catch on and people will start considering Gremlins a Christmas movie as well. We'll see. Okay, so that was a family family movie that's considered a mild horror movie that takes place at Christmas time, but what about an actual horror movie that takes place at Christmas time? And we would find out with the release of Silent Night, Deadly Night, which was released in theaters November 9th, 1984, and would be the subject of quite the little controversy. See, the movie is about this guy who, when he was a child, witnessed his parents being murdered on Christmas Eve. He was then taken into foster care by an abusive orphanage. So the kid grows up and finally snaps and becomes a psychopathic killer who dresses up like Santa Claus and kills people on Christmas. And people had a huge problem with this. And you can really understand why. I mean, you just can't have a horror movie where the antagonist is a guy who dresses up like Santa Claus and kills people. It really soils the whole concept of Christmas, and people just really had a major problem with that. And it was mainly because of how the film was promoted. They would run the trailer at primetime spots, like at commercial breaks during Three's Company and Little House on the Prairie, and kids would see the image of a killer Santa Claus, and nobody liked that. This movie was heavily protested by angry families, and certain PTA groups actually got this movie pulled from theaters. But before all that happened, this movie did actually do pretty well in the box office. On its opening weekend, it made almost $1.5 million, and it actually outgrossed Nightmare on Elm Street, which opened that same weekend, and would make almost $2.5 million in its first 10 days of release. Yeah, this movie caught all kinds of hell, which is weird because there was another movie that was released earlier that had a similar premise called Christmas Evil that went virtually unnoticed. Oh well, I guess it's all in how you promote something. In show business, sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. At first, this movie was called Sleigh Ride, S-L-A-Y, which is funny because if you remember in Ernest Saves Christmas, the movie that Joe Carruthers was going to be a part of was called Christmas Sleigh, S-L-A-Y. And of course, the fact that there was going to be a horror movie about Christmas pissed Santa Claus off so much that he punched the director right in the face. It's a great scene, and I gotta tell you, I really love it when Santa Claus punches sleazy people in the face, and this happens in A Miracle on 34th Street as well. Yes, Santa Claus is a crusader of good and a defender against the forces of evil, and everybody loves him, which is why people had such a massive problem with Silent Night, Deadly Night. I mean, it's not like Santa Claus was actually the killer in this movie. It was someone who dressed up like Santa Claus. But just the fact that somebody dressed up like Santa Claus and went on a killing spree was enough to piss everyone off. It's had so much controversy that the poster was actually changed from the iconic chimney scene to a bunch of phrases that would describe how controversial the movie was. And though it was pulled from theaters, it would eventually be re-released and would go on to have multiple releases on VHS. It was released on VHS in 1986 by USA Home Video, and then again in 1987 by International Video Entertainment, or IVE, and then again in 1991 by Avid Home Video, and the 1986 release was released in the big box, which was normally reserved for adult film releases, not that I would know. But some other movies were released in them, like I Spit on Your Grave, and this 1986 big box release goes for a pretty high price today, and the 1987 IVE release was released in a clamshell, and that still goes for a pretty steep price. Silent Night, Deadly Night would spawn a shitload of sequels, including Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toy Maker, which actually starred Mickey Rooney, which is fitting because, if you remember, he voiced Santa Claus in a few of the Rankin and Bass Christmas specials, which we'll bring that up again later. Now, the concept of a Christmas horror movie isn't exactly a new one. There was Black Christmas, which was released in 1974, and its early VHS releases go for a pretty steep price today as well, and so does its beta counterpart. So yeah, a horror movie during Christmas time isn't exactly a new concept, but Silent Night, Deadly Night definitely brought it into the forefront, and mainly because of the controversy it caused. And Silent Night, Deadly Night also enjoyed its own Laserdisc release, which goes for a pretty steep price. And I say this is a not really Christmas movie, but this movie does have more to do with Christmas than Die Hard or Gremlins. And those are some movies that people consider Christmas movies, but are arguable if they are. But how about one that no one ever considers to be a not really Christmas movie, with Batman Returns, which was released in theaters June 16th, 1992. And this movie was a smash hit. It was everywhere. There was merchandise galore. There was t-shirts. There was Happy Meal premiums. There was toys. There was toys that didn't make sense. Deep Dive Batman? Huh? What the fuck? There was a Robin for this? Robin wasn't in this movie. What the hell? And of course there was VHS made. Lots of it. Tons of it, actually. I mean, everybody and their brother had this movie, and which is why it's one of the more commonly found VHSs on thrift store shelves. And naturally, since there was so many of them made, this tape isn't worth diddly squat today. But oh well, it's still a pretty decent movie. But on to the point of featuring this movie. is this movie a not really Christmas movie? And this is actually an argument that I've made that's cost me friends and gotten me kicked out of parties, because I say, yes, it is. Because if we're applying the same logic that we do to Die Hard, the fact that a movie just takes place around Christmas time makes it a Christmas movie, then we got to do this one. And though the story of Batman Returns has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas, it was just set around Christmas time because, like I said earlier, Christmas time makes a fascinating backdrop. It's good for the imagery and whatnot. So yeah, Batman Returns takes place at Christmas time, and we get to see Gotham City all dressed up for Christmas. So why isn't this movie a Christmas movie? Well, it's not really a Christmas movie, we all know that. But again, if we're applying the logic that if a movie takes place around Christmas time, it's automatically a Christmas movie, like everybody does with Die Hard. And even though that whole thing was started as a joke, it still brings up a pretty good point. So that would mean that Batman Returns is also a Christmas movie. And you may be wondering that if all these movies take place at Christmas time, yet they were summertime releases, what's the deal with that? Well, subliminal messaging has a lot to do with that, especially with films like Gremlins and Batman Returns. You see, they had a lot of merchandise and toys, and the sooner you get folks thinking about Christmas time and what to buy people, the better. So you release a big movie in the summertime and have it either take place at Christmas time or just have something to do with Christmas, and there you go. You planted the seeds for Christmas time shopping. And so you would think to yourself, hey, little Susie would really like a Gizmo doll, or hey, I might want to buy little Timmy that Arctic Attack Batman. Plus, all in all, having a movie take place around Christmas time just sort of livens up the story a little bit. Makes it more interesting. So Batman Returns was a smash hit, and whether or not you think it's a Christmas movie, it really doesn't matter. It still made a shitload of money. Mainly because Batman is a very powerful film franchise, and anything having to do with Batman is going to make a lot of money, even if it sucks. And speaking of powerful film franchises, let's take a look at Star Wars, with the infamous Star Wars Holiday Special, which originally aired on CBS November 17th, 1978, and we've all been trying to forget about it ever since, including the actual Star Wars franchise, as they don't even acknowledge this even exists. This is really most famous because it's widely regarded as being the worst piece of crap Star Wars ever put out. But hey, let's be real here. It's not the only Star Wars material that's shitty. I mean, Attack of the Clones makes this thing look like The Godfather. And they did try their best with this. It does have the original cast and some guest stars, including B. Arthur. So why am I talking about this abomination? Well, really, it's the epitome of a not really Christmas special. See, the whole story centers around Chewbacca and the Wookiee holiday Life Day, which is kind of like Christmas, but not really like Christmas, but it kind of is. It's certainly modeled after Christmas, and the Wookiee Life Day is a huge deal to them. So really, it's the ultimate not really Christmas special. So I feel that it's worth mentioning, and what else is worth mentioning is the fact that this was never released on VHS. They just kind of figured, it's so bad, why bother? But there are some companies that have recently made mock productions of this VHS, like this one that I got from the company Himalaya Hardware, and they got lots of neat stuff, so if you want to check out their eBay page, their link will be in the comments. And look, they made it look like the original CBS Fox releases, so it goes right alongside your other ones. Very nice touch. So yeah, this is a fun watch around Christmas time. I know it's really cheesy pie and it's a piece of shit, but you know what? Nothing's perfect, so just have fun. Alright, so those are some non-Christmas elements that are put in Christmas time scenarios. But what happens when you put Christmas elements in non-Christmas time scenarios? We'll find out after the break. Captain Adam's VHS pirate ship will return after this. Yeehaw! Come on down to Cowboy Pork Chop's Show Compute Family Restaurant. Never mind the lawsuits, come on down and rustle you up some grub. Get our world-famous fried fart basket, only $5. Or lasso yourself an armpit and cheese submarine sandwich, only $5. Or try our homemade booger loaf platter, only $5. And try our new dessert menu. Get yourself a slice of loogie meringue pie, only $2. Or get yourself a big old used bathwater milkshake, only $3. And come in and try my new chocolate wonderful. I swear it's chocolate. You get a free Captain Adam toy with every Buckaroo Kids meal. And be sure to check out our new Little Buckaroo Playland, now snake-free. And get a Captain Adam's VHS pirate ship commemorative glass with the purchase of any entree. So come on down to Cowboy Pork Chop's Show Compute Family Restaurant. That's right on the corner of Route 25 and Kenilworth Boulevard, right beside Bill's Dirty Mattress Outlet. Yeehaw! Chocolate Wonderful is actually diarrhea. Cowboy Pork Chop not responsible for death or illness. Avast motherfuckers! It's the new season of Captain Adam's VHS Pirate Ship. Premieres August 16th, only on the Captain Adam's VHS Pirate Ship YouTube channel. We'll be taking the VHS Pirate Ship on the high seas of VHS collecting, and we'll explore cyborg movies, barbarian movies, rotoscope movies, underrated horror movies, overrated horror movies, VHS, Beta, CED, Laserdisc, and of course, tapes, and much, much more. So join Captain Adam's VHS Pirate Ship on YouTube and like the Facebook page. And join him on Patreon for exclusive content, early access to shows, super secret interviews, and more. That's the new season of Captain Adam's VHS Pirate Ship coming in August. Set sail for adventure and anchors away. We now return you to Captain Adam's VHS Pirate Ship. So now let's talk about something that is 100% Christmas, but it's set in July, making this not only an actual Christmas movie, but also the only Christmas in July movie, with the Rankin and Bass epic Christmas special, Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July, which premiered on television November 25th, 1979, and actually got a theatrical release overseas. And you might scoff at me for saying that this is an epic movie, but this is an epic movie, and I'll tell you why. Not only is this an hour and a half long, but it also features an evil wizard named Winterbolt, which sounds like a Swedish metal band, and he has ice dragons.
Ice dragons.
There's also a powerful queen of the Northern Lights called Lady Boreal, and we also find out that Rudolph's nose is powered by the Aurora Borealis, and there's even an evil reindeer called Scratcher. There's a hurricane, and just a lot of epic shit happens. It's pretty unexpected for this, and this is the ultimate Rankin and Bass Christmas special tie-in. Not only do you have Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman, but the Santa Claus that's featured in this is the Mickey Rooney Santa Claus from Santa Claus is Coming to Town and A Year Without Santa Claus, and not the dickhead Santa from the first Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And also Big Ben from the weird Rudolph Shiny New Year is in this, and so is Jack Frost from Frosty's Winter Wonderland. And then the little drummer boy shows up and they all fight Thanos. Just kidding, but you almost half expect that. And if you're keeping score here, Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July makes the third installment to both the Rudolph and Frosty sagas. So yes, they're now sagas, which is just kind of something you never thought you'd say. But I mean, these things are beloved through all time, and I still love them today, so it's no surprise to me. It's just kind of odd to think of these things as epic trilogies. But they are. I mean, you got Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Rudolph Shiny New Year, and now Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. And then you have Frosty the Snowman, Frosty's Winter Wonderland, and Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. So it's kind of like the Captain America Civil War movie where it's like all tied in, but it's a sequel. Yeah, kind of like that. But years and years before that movie even happened. And it's weird that, beloved as these films are, not a lot of people remember the sequels very well. I mean, some people remember Rudolph's Shiny New Year, but not a lot of people even know about Frosty's Winter Wonderland. And even less people remember Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. I don't know, it's just not as celebrated as the original. But anyways, it was released on VHS by Lightning Video in the 1980s. And then it wouldn't be released again until 1992, 1995, and 1999. And all these distributions are pretty easy to find today at varying prices from $10 all the way down to 99 cents. And you know, I hate talking about DVDs on this show, but I came across this and I found it pretty funny. Look at this, the DVD of this movie, he's selling it for $300. Well, at least there's free shipping. And though this movie kind of went unknown for a while, there has been a resurgence of this as of late. And certain cable stations do play this around Christmas time, but they crowbarred in between constant showings of Home Alone and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And this movie is also interesting because not only does it take Christmas elements and put them in non-Christmas scenarios, but also the story of this movie takes place in the summertime, and it was released around Christmas time, as opposed to our other featured movies today that were released during the summertime but take place during Christmas time. I just think that's kind of weird. Okay, so what about the last of the holiday season with New Year's? Are there any New Year's movies? Well, sure there is. But what about a not really New Year's movie? Because hey, big holidays make for fascinating backdrops for any story, and New Year's is no exception. You know, New Year's, the last big hurrah.
Before the long, dark, cold desolation of winter sets in, and all the joys of the holiday season which you had previously felt are now encased in an icy tomb. The cold, bitter, and unending like a bottomless pit, and the dream of spring forever unreachable. The piercing cold so maddening that come February, people are actually looking to a groundhog to tell us when it will end.
Adam, are you alright? Yeah, I'm sorry. What was I saying? Yes. When it comes to not really New Year's movies, only one comes to mind. Ghostbusters 2, which was released in theaters June 16th, 1989. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but the story takes place around New Year's. In fact, it is a pivotal point to the plot. As I had mentioned, this movie was released in the summer of 1989, competing for box office numbers alongside of Tim Burton's Batman and Lethal Weapon 2 and Karate Kid Part 3. Yeah. But anyways, Ghostbusters 2 would go on to be released on VHS in November of 1989, and then have a multitude of different distributions through the 1990s all the way up to 1999, including a re-release in a Kids Clamshell. In fact, both movies got the Kids Clamshell treatment. Great. But the 1989 release is from RCA Home Video and is in the classic RCA Home Video red trim sleeves. And you can find any of these distributions today pretty easily and at different price points, like from $10 to $5. Some people want to feel saucy and sell it for $20. Oh well, you can't really blame someone for trying to make a buck, but you can make fun of them. But as far as a not really Christmas movie or not really New Year's movie goes, you really can apply that theory to any holiday. For example, E.T. is a not really Halloween movie, and Son-in-Law is a not really Thanksgiving movie. And then there's one that's both a Halloween movie and a Christmas movie with Nightmare Before Christmas, which was released in theaters October 13th, 1993, and we still don't know really what to make of this movie. Is it a Christmas movie? Is it a Halloween movie? When the hell do I watch this movie? It's confusing because, of course, it encompasses elements of both Halloween and Christmas. So, do we watch this movie at Halloween or do we watch it at Christmas? Well, the truth is, there's no law that says you can't watch any of these movies at any time of year, or any movie for that matter. In fact, switch it up a little bit. Watch Halloween on July 4th, or watch Independence Day on Thanksgiving, or watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles on Easter. Watch Die Hard on Labor Day, or watch Ernest Saves Christmas at Halloween. Who gives a shit? Do what you want, just have fun. And that's part of the point of Christmas in July. People love summertime, people love Christmas, so put it together and let's have a party, and let's have a good time. And I hope you've had a good time watching this episode. So hit that like button, and hit subscribe, and share this video, get the word out. And Captain Adam's VHS pirate ship is on Patreon now. So if you're feeling generous, hit me up on there to get exclusive content, early access to shows, and super secret interviews. So thanks a lot for watching, and Merry Christmas in July. And I'll see you next time, only on Captain Adam's VHS pirate ship.